So first off, I'd like to say thank you for your interest in this important topic. Credit education is key for our young people. They are always amazed when I mention to them, when I go in the classroom, that consumer spending is 70% of the economic activity in our country. They are very, very powerful young people, and it's very important that they understand how their role as a spender and a saver and a borrower and an investor, how important that's going to be to their future. So the CARE program takes your expertise and your knowledge and your credibility to go into the classroom and share with these young people what you have seen in your profession. So as we talk about this, we mentioned this earlier, that there's a great deal of content. There's more content than you could cover in a week, probably. And yet, what we're going to suggest to you is that you talk to seniors in a 50-minute class period, which means you got to keep on trucking and get the content that you believe is key. I don't think any two attorneys do this program exactly alike. I would doubt it. It has to be your own. It has to be what's comfortable for you. The content that's suggested that we'll share with you tonight is certainly given to you as options that you can look at, and then make that presentation something you feel very strongly about, that you can talk to the students about. They don't particularly react well to a talking head. They don't particularly respond well to someone reading content to them. They want to talk with you. They want to hear your story. Tell them a story about someone that you know that maybe has had a bad experience with credit. That's what they'll relate to. They may want to ask you questions. As long as it's an appropriate question, that's cool. We want the kids to talk with you and be engaged with you. A couple of things that we share with our attorneys before we get into the content. We provide kind of an idea of how you can go into the classroom and be comfortable. One is get there on time and don't be rushed. There's nothing worse than flying by the seat of your pants and the buses are pulling in and you're trying to get to the classroom and the kids are waiting and the bell's ringing. So my tip to you as a speaker, obviously, as you would in your courtroom or when you go to work, you want to be on time, you want to be relaxed, you want to be personable, you want to meet the kids, introduce yourself and let them know that you are a legal professional. You're a bankruptcy attorney and sometimes a judge, and they will relate to that. We also suggest that if you can, get a read on your crowd. Is it an urban school? Is it a rural school? Do you have kids who are from low income, who are maybe on the lower end of the economic spectrum? There's nothing worse than going in and talking to kids about, so you're going to the Bahamas for spring break, when these kids are not going to the Bahamas on spring break, or buying a car when you're going to get a car when you graduate. It's very put-offing for the students if they sense that you don't have a clue what their life is like. You can do this by either asking the teacher to kind of give you a little profile of the kids. Are they what kind of kids are they? Are they college-bound kids? Are these kids at-risk students? So that you can relate to them from where they are. I think that's really, really important. We mentioned about engaging in conversation. One of the strategies we've suggested to attorneys that's really super easy, that lets you know right quick, are they with you or are they not, is a technique called fist to five. When you ask them a question about how many of you are worried about having enough money in your future, fist means 0. I'm not worried about it at all. 1, 2, 3, you get the gist. If they give you a high five, they're really worried about this. Okay? So fist to 5 is a way for you to quickly gauge in a classroom of 20 or 30 kids, are they with you or are they not? That's just a technique you might find helpful, and it's kind of fun. And again, they have to listen when you're calling for fist to 5. It makes them pay attention to what you're doing. Okay? Let me begin and talk a little bit. You have materials in front of you that contain the contents of a typical CARE program. There is a wealth of information that you can cover, and certainly there's no one set way to go about this. However, we have found that probably across the United States, the content is pretty typical. This is what Judge Nimfo set out in 2002 when he went into the classroom and talked to kids. And so we have sort of culled some of this over the years of doing this program, typically with high school seniors. So these kids are typically 17, 18 years old. And these are the topics that seem to resonate with them. And the first one is developing a financial mindset. It's extremely important for you to put credit in a bigger context for them. Because again, they're thinking about, do I have enough money to go to the football game and to take a date? Can I get a pizza? They're not worried about mortgage payments. They're not necessarily worried today about going bankrupt. They're worried about, how am I going to take care of this weekend, this month, this semester, this year? So the first thing that we suggest in care content is to let the kids tell you where they are with their money experiences. And we start by asking them questions. How many of you have a part-time job? Are you earning money? Again, they can raise their hand. They can do 0, I'm not working at all. I'm working all I can work and still go to school. You can get that kind of response. We want to ask the kids, how many of you honestly feel that you're managing your money responsibly? Are you keeping a budget? Do you watch out for checks you've written or debit cards you're using, or how your money's coming in and going out? We ask them how many of them are saving for a long-term goal. And this might be an opportunity to engage them right off the bat. What's something you're saving for that you know you're going to have to plan? Is it a trip, the senior trip? Do you want to buy a dress for the prom? Do you want to have the opportunity to buy a used car so that you can work over the summer when school's out? So getting them to respond to you, you've got a friend in the audience right away when they start talking with you. Not many of them are going to have credit cards. But they're not old enough. They'd have to have a cosigner to have a card. But some of them do. Most of them will have some kind of a bank relationship, I will hope. And if they don't, you certainly want to suggest that they think about that. And they might have a debit card tied to that credit union or bank. So we want them to have that banking relationship. The other thing we put in our credit education to get them started is to impress upon them the importance of making responsible financial decisions. And that's a message that transcends just credit, but it means that you think about where your money is going and you're not spending money impulsively. You're not letting other people influence the money decisions that you make. And we give a suggested financial decision-making grid, which is very simple. If they're looking for a used car, they think about all the types of cars they might like to have, and then they think about the features they're looking for, low mileage, great sound system, whatever the kids are looking for, and they put pluses and minuses in that grid. So if a pickup truck gets good mileage, but it's not a chick magnet, they may not want that one. So they match alternatives to criterion and find a decision, a financial decision that's good for them. Why is this important? Because again, these kids have not had a lot of opportunity to talk to an adult about money. So before you jump into, let's talk about your FICO score and let's talk about a credit card statement, they need to know that they've got to be responsible money managers. So establishing that need for a financial mindset has got to be done before you even go to the credit part, okay? So the first part of our conversation is typically getting an idea of where their financial mindset is. Secondly, we talk a little bit about some financial tips about the need to budget. Kids, again, when they live at home, they are the cute little kid that mom or dad slips them a 20. They don't necessarily have to make a budget when they're living at home, but the rubber hits the road when they graduate and they move out of that situation, and suddenly they're going to be paying for laundry, or they're going to be paying for utilities or possibly rent. So a budget changes from what they need to think about when they're living at home and what they're going to need to think about when they move from home. We also try to make it really simple because, again, in the time that you meet with the students, you won't have time to go through a budget form with them. So we suggest to you that you might think about the 50-30-20 rule. And that is, whatever your take-home income is, split it 50 for your basic needs, 30 for the things that you want, and 20 to save or pay off debt. 50-30-20. It's really, really simple. The kids get it. It's not as complicated as filling out a budget. And it starts to let them see that you've got money in and money out. And then when you start using credit, this is another component that they've got to understand about money traveling and their responsibility for it. We talk about also how to kind of face their particular financial situation, their assets. What are things that I own that have value? What do I owe? Do I owe on a car? Do I owe on something mom or dad let me borrow money to buy tennis lessons or to go on the spring study tour? And maybe they owe a parent money. They might want to think about, what do you want to achieve after you leave high school? Do you want to study abroad? Do you want to go to the military? Do you want to go to community college? Or are you going to possibly get a scholarship for a 4-year college experience? But when they start to think about assets, liabilities, and long-term goals, then you're kind of nudging them in the direction of thinking about how to use credit and how to borrow money responsibly when they have to think about those particular pieces in their financial life. I think it's important in your presentation not to cast credit as a totally bad thing. It's not. And responsible use of credit is extremely important as they build their financial reputation. And we know as adults, and they probably know too, that we're moving into a cashless society. You're not carrying around bills and coins as much. They're making transactions on their phone. They're paying bills, with plastic and online. So it's really important that we make sure that using credit is a good thing. It works for us as consumers to let us do things conveniently, to let us take advantage of timing when we're buying goods and services, and also to establish a financial reputation that's very, very important. The kids also probably like to think about how cool it is when they've got a little bit of money their friends don't have, and they can pick up the tab at McDonald's, or they can buy pizza for the whole team or whatever. Judge Nympho always said in his remarks, if you can eat it or drink it, and it's less than $20, don't put it on plastic. And we ask kids, why is that true? And they think for a minute, and usually they'll come up with it, that by the time you eat it or drink it and the bill comes due, you have forgotten that transaction and you have forgotten how you use that money. So he always emphasized that if you eat it or drink it, it's under $20, don't put it on a plastic card. Kids are less likely to pull a 20 out of their wallet. That's a painful thing. To have a 20 and suddenly you've bought pizza with it and it's gone. It's not as painful when it's on plastic. And that's a dangerous mindset that they need to think about. Our kids probably spend money 3 times a day, some way, somehow, and they probably don't even realize it. So it's really important that we raise their awareness of the financial managers that they really are and will certainly become. We get into credit in a big way when we start talking with the students and sharing with them a credit card statement. Some of them have never seen one. They have no clue what the numbers mean on it. And as of 2009, with the new legislation, where credit card statements had to show how much you would be paying on carryover amounts on a credit card, the kids, this is a powerful thing. You know, why would you pay $120 for an $80 pair of tennis shoes? And they'll go, well, I'm not going to do that. Well, you will if you don't pay your credit card off or your debit card comes due and you haven't taken care of that. So we put a credit statement in front of the kids and let the attorneys talk with the students about, okay, here's how much you charged, here's how much you paid back, you still have a balance, here's what it's going to cost you. And kids are confounded when they find out all of the fees that are applied to credit card transactions. So we have kind of listed some consequences of not taking care of credit, because possibly they think that no one will ever know that they screwed up their credit card, or that mom and dad let them use a credit card and they weren't responsible with it. They probably have no clue that this financial reputation stays with them for a great long while, that they may be denied a job, they may pay more to buy a car, they may be denied an apartment because their credit stinks, and they don't know that. They don't think anyone's ever going to find out that they're letting a balance roll over on their credit card. So it's really important that they understand that bad credit stays with you an awfully long time. And this is something they probably have no clue about. We do in our materials share with them some information about the FICO score. The FICO score, again, we try to explain that it's a sort of your financial reputation with a 3-digit number. And the higher the number, the more responsible you are. Again, these 17 and 18-year-olds, frankly, probably don't care right now about a FICO score. But we need to make sure they understand that it's going to come back and haunt them if they're not aware that somebody out there is watching what they are spending and the financial transactions that they're making. And if they've been irresponsible and if they have abused the opportunity to use credit, that it will stay with them, and that's going to take a long while to repair that credit score. We talk about some common forms of credit. Certainly the kids are going to know a car loan, because probably that's the first time they will be involved with borrowing for something significant. They have retail credit cards perhaps that their parents have co-signed for. So if they go to Dick's Sporting Goods, or they go to Amazon.com or iTunes, and they buy these types of electronic transactions, they'll be familiar with that and having to use plastic to do that, because there's no way you can mail Amazon $10.50 or whatever for some iTunes. They probably are not able yet to have their own personal loans, because they would have to have a cosigner at their own age. They're not going to have that. Certainly they're going to experience college loans very soon. We do get to that and talk about that a college loan oftentimes has to be paid back if it's not a scholarship or grant, that it's going to be an expense that they're going to have to take care of, or someone will, their parents perhaps. But these are there's several common forms of loans. Certainly a home mortgage as they get older and settle down, we hope they do, and they buy a home, that will be another form of credit that they will experience. There's tons of fees that they will not be familiar with that you might share with them. Certainly, your a cash advance fee, a balance transfer fee. I'm looking on page 19 if you're looking at your care materials that we shared with you. Sometimes if you go over your credit limit, you're late, you transfer a balance, it just keeps cha-chinging every time you do these transactions, and the kids are not aware until you tell them what's happening to them when they use that piece of plastic. A lot of times attorneys, when they do the care presentations, like to stop in this general vicinity and perhaps show a video or show, the National Care website has 3 or 4 commercials. The kids absolutely love them. We have an SNL skit with Amy Poehler and Steve Martin about using credit that's hysterical, and the kids like that. That lets you have a minute of a breathing time when you go, okay, what have I covered? What more do I want to get done while the kids are watching the video? So it's a little breather for you. Some attorneys like to start with a commercial. You all have seen the one that's MasterCard, I think, that says, "I'm in hock up to my eyeballs," and he's cutting grass on a riding lawnmower in front of this mansion, and the kids are in the swimming pool, and he's bemoaning the fact that he's in deep trouble with his credit. There's one with a dad and his young son that go to a baseball game, and they buy hot dogs and popcorn and a drink, and it's like $47 to go to the concession stand at the baseball game. So these videos are available for your use as a part of your presentation, and the kids do respond to them very, very well. And it gives you a chance to, kind of change the set of what's going on. We do mention to the students about payday lending, though again, that doesn't come into play typically for these kids at this point in time because they have to have a paycheck to qualify for a payday loan advance. Same thing with rent to own. We do mention it to students because perhaps their parents have been in a situation, or maybe they are, where they have to rent a washer and a dryer if they're buying an apartment or renting an apartment, or perhaps their parents are in a situation where they can't afford to buy these things and they rent them in a rent to own situation. We want the students also to know, and we talk with them about their identity, and using so much online transactions with credit that they're putting their name, perhaps their social security number, a bank account number, and we caution them to be very careful about how they use that information online. So that's another important message that coming from you will be very powerful. Again, perhaps you could share a story of someone that's been in your courtroom or has come to your law firm and talk with you about stolen identity and what it did to them, because these stories resonate with these kids. I think I skipped, and I shouldn't have. I should have mentioned their favorite topic is buying a car. And this will just nail them right between the eyes, because typically these kids are counting the days to being able to afford a car. And so certainly you can talk about, trying to put 20% down. Don't get upside down in a loan where you owe more than the car is worth. I just read something today about cars are so expensive now, and people are driving their used cars longer, so when they go to trade them in, they're worth practically nothing. And so it's easy to get upside down when you owe more than the car is worth. The kids love that. We suggest they go to Kelley Blue Book and look up the car, but you will get questions from the kids when you talk about buying a car, and that's a topic that they love to talk about. Again, if you feel it's an appropriate audience to talk about college and how they are going to have to be more responsible and be independent of mommy and daddy and make their own decisions in college, we think that's another topic that probably is really important for them to think about, because suddenly there's not somebody there, doling out the money, and they are going to be the ones that have to really take care of it. So we give them some information about college. And then finally, again, we're talking pretty quickly for a 45-minute presentation, we suggest to them that they talk to their parents or talk to another adult about their financial misgivings or their financial fears, or what am I going to do if I can't get enough money to go to college, or I need a car to get to work, I want to get married, I want to move out of the house and get my own apartment. There's a lot of topics that parents and kids, teens particularly, never talk about. And so in our credit presentation, we certainly encourage the students to have your comments be a door opener and kind of get the conversation started. But to go home and, when the question's asked, hey, what did you learn in school today? I learned about credit today. And let the kids and the parents talk about that. There's a lot of vocabulary related to credit that we make available for the kids. We encourage the classroom teacher to follow up your presentation. You cannot educate all of these students completely in 40 to 45 minutes, but you can be the one who starts the conversation and brings this important topic to their attention. So I thank you for your interest and your participation. They count on you. You're greatly needed, and I know you'll have a great time when you go visit your seniors in your high schools.